Thank you, Mayuri. Rob, Stephanie, and Karina are asking questions. All right, so we were very specific, and we only assessed how well the policies were written in terms of integrating environmental sustainability issues. So as part of one of the requirements for a PhD student is to be very specific for their subject. So it was unfortunately impossible for me to include other aspects into the study. So we only looked into the procurement policies. The local councils had heaps of other policies as well, which SMART criteria can be developed for assessing how well they are performing in other aspects as well. Especially, I can also add that with the sustainability related policies, the councils also had other policies such as climate action policy, or for example, even sustainability itself. But we didn't look into them. We were only focused on the procurement policies, and how they can become smart is by following the template and suggestions that we provided specifically for integrating sustainability issues. And also good examples, as I mentioned, for example, the only council that did the best, achieved the best rating, which was exceed, was for having a time-bound goal, setting a time-bound goal, which was providing a definite deadline, which was a long-term goal, and then setting a quantified target, which was having 0 net emissions by the year 2025. And also another good example was, for example, they set year-by-year goals, which was again quantified. Okay, we're going to reduce the waste generated each year by 10% to reach 35% reduction by, for example, 2024. So these were the examples that we saw from the council's policies.
There's a question from Karina asking, are there good examples, best practices? I think Aryana in his presentation shared a few, but to add into that, we also have to understand what the research, this study brought in as well as the other things that are in play. So policy is a sort of approved document that an organization accepts as a valid document to follow. But policy is like one, I would say it's critical, but it's only one thing in the whole picture. In a dynamic day-to-day environment, having a policy really helps, but that dynamism is something we are not able to capture in a research like this. For example, there may be people who are individuals who are like who are leaders, champions, driving change within organizations. Sometimes they make things happen within organizations, but with the role of policy, what becomes easier is that it becomes a common organizational voice to drive it. So to what I was going to say to Karina is that we have shared a few things in the research, but in general, the good practices or the best practices and how to kind of line it up. I think when the research paper is out, we would be able to have a bit more sharing done. Maybe Aryana would be able to add into that. The other ingredients that make it better or workable also also need to be thought of in terms of why it worked well. So policy is like a very standing sort of a pillar. But then for a good practice to happen, there are other factors also contributing to that. With this, we share a few of them, but with the, we have not been able to give a full picture of everything that contributed. In setting a good policy, I think some key examples would be there in the research paper that Aryana is basically currently compiling. Any more questions, or shall we take, maybe we have room for one more question?
I can comment on the point about ISO 2040. Yeah. I guess, as Mayuri mentioned, this is only one component of an integrated organizational set of activities. So yes, it does, when you're setting up the purchasing targets would need to be integrated with whatever the organization said its broader environmental goals and targets are. I guess we're looking at different kinds of things in the sense of, in some ways, we're focusing more on the purchasing of materials, not dealing with waste. So I guess thinking about how, and this is one of the broader issues, how organizations make discrete decisions, not integrated decisions. So in other words, if we're buying asphalt with recycled glass in it, we're actually reducing the environmental impact somewhere else in the supply system. Okay, now, does that necessarily fit into our environmental objectives and measures? Maybe not. And this is part of the problem that we need to say, well, okay, when we're talking about purchasing is focusing on the acquisition, not on as necessary as much as the waste, which is a broader set of activities. So there's a whole range of other factors we didn't discuss. So for example, we didn't talk about energy efficiency or water usage or a whole range of other components. So you're right, it's a very complicated dimension, council's environmental activities, and we're focusing on one very narrow set. And it is very difficult to have a truly integrated system across the organization.
And to quickly take Inga's question, asking how do you ensure that the policy is implemented and support staff, the majority of whom don't have expertise in sustainability, to incorporate sustainability circularity into their procurement? So I think there are two things I think I would like to sort of mention. So upskilling, I think we all accept and acknowledge that that's a critical component in everything. General upskilling on initiatives like circular economy. What is it? What does it truly mean? That is more at a very general level, but more application-oriented knowledge on. I was a procurement professional, or I am a procurement professional. I used to do my procurement with a certain mindset before, and there's a new paradigm that you kind of need to take into account in my daily decisions in procurement, and how do I upskill and build a skill overlay in my position to support that. So that's the second type of skills that we kind of need to be built, not just very general skills. The other point to add is that I shared with you the policy is like one of the 6 components that we found as a driver or a barrier for councils to take up green or environmental procurement in the way that they behaved. And one of the other critical ones was this organizational commitment. So if you think of policy, it acts as a sort of a commitment device. It sends a clear message, sends a signal that council is committed to this set targets, acting in this consistent way. So that drive and the commitment also is one of that. So probably to the ones that you are telling, Inga, upskilling is one aspect, but having that organizational commitment to have a policy which is ready for driving change. It's ready to be implemented because it's set up in the right way. It has the right ingredients is one. But then, so 3 things: commitment, having that policy in the right way, and then the staff who are upskilled, not just with awareness, but with readiness for application. I think all 3 are necessary for supporting that change and transformation. We have come to the end of time, so I have 2 more slides to share of the upcoming webinars. Let me quickly put it up. So this is actually the second of a webinar series. We conducted the first one on sharing some of the steps in mapping the transition journey in organizations. So this one is on sustainable procurement policy. There's one to be held on the 31st of January where we talk about, again, circular procurement, a different aspect of it, and more specifically the procurement approach called procurement for innovation. We have a 4th webinar, which is we are currently sort of we haven't set a date to sort of we have 28th of February. Sorry, I forgot. On identifying skill and capability gaps in organizations, which is how do you basically holistically analyze to drive a certain objective. the organizational readiness is. We also have training courses lined up, which are sort of more specific courses in February and March. But this webinar series is complimentary, and I would really like to invite you to attend. And a brief snapshot of the other things that we do. We recently published a report on clean economy skill and capability building for advanced manufacturers in the Geelong region. This is a study funded by the Victorian government. I think we'll be able to publicly share the document in January, and I'll probably will inform all of you who are now in our email contact list. I think I did mention this part. We have professional development courses being launched. And we are also working on a capability assessment tool, which I will give more updates in the new year. So as a help to our sort of to increase, how do I say, your objective of achieving the webinar, to make sure that we actually cater to your requirements and capture what you want to learn in the way we conduct it, I would really appreciate if you could take a minute and fill in this form. It's a very simple form to gather feedback of what you thought, and please also feel free to mention the topics that you like us to cover. I thank Michael and Aryana and TREMS Hub for their involvement in the webinar, and who did a fantastic job in sharing their research, and a lot of work went into that research. Thank you very much, and I'll probably be here for a while if you have any more questions, but if you could take a minute to feedback, I would really appreciate that.
Thank you all. Unfortunately, I have another meeting that starts now. So have a lovely day. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, everyone. Good to be here and good to see you. Have a lovely day. Bye.
Thank you.